So are you ready?
Yeah, go
Oh,
for
I'm
it.
taking a picture of my cat. All right, I'm ready.
I think that
Rob,
goes
you
in
ready?
the episode. That goes in the episode. Just like
Exactly. Yeah, that
Are you
goes.
ready, Rob?
play the intro and then like splice in. Hold on, I'm taking a picture of my cat and then.
So episode 3, it is actually February 12th right now, just for date stamp purposes. First and foremost,
Episode 4,
how
bro.
I'm sorry, episode 4.
This is A New Hope,
I'm
dude.
just-
Episode 4,
I
A
know,
New
but-
Hope. Not the trilogy, not the prequel trilogy. We're on episode 4.
But I'm really excited about episode 3 because that was the first time we unveiled our official CRC Podcast theme music, which obviously we couldn't give a shout out to Squidly McSmear and Barf. He's the one that actually produced that because he produced that after we had recorded the episode. So I wanted to take this opportunity first and foremost to thank Dave and Barf. He obviously goes by Squidly McSmear. That's him and the guitar. That's all him. I just kind of gave him the idea, and I don't know if that was even his first try, but I know that's the first thing he submitted to me that day that I asked him if he can do it for us. So thank you for Squidly on that. You guys heard it, so I think you two liked it too, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think it's like a white Jimi Hendrix ripping it. Except it's MotoGP instead of Star Spangled Banner.
Kevin, did you even get a chance to actually hear the one that I did, like kind of like the very first rough one that I recorded with my lousy equipment and my phone?
No, my phone wouldn't play it because I've never updated my iPhone 4. It's sweet.
Yeah, it's a massive improvement with what I came up with, considering the quality of equipment and recording equipment that I had. So, like I said, thanks for Squidly on that one. But it is episode 4, as Kevin corrected, and we're going to be covering the Sepang 1, or first pre-season test for MotoGP in Malaysia. For this episode, it's going to be another Kevin and Rob show because unfortunately I couldn't really keep up with the live updates and probably the live footage that MotoGP had when the testing were occurring. Was it 2 or 3 days? I don't even know. But I've got basically nothing brought for this episode because I've been so busy. So I'm going to sit back.
He's as prepared as Nick Cage for a movie role.
There you go.
Yeah, so busy doing
And
the burns effect on the last video. All those photos just took.
Yeah, that was a major pain in the ass. But I think we're getting better. So we should be able to have this podcast episode out a lot sooner than the last one did. But
We actually got more views on the last episode too. We had I think the last time I checked it was like 61 views. So beats our.
we had over
Shit,
70.
Gangnam
We had over 70 today.
Oh really?
Watch out, Gangnam Style. Here we come.
Well, anyway, before we do get started, I do want to remind everybody that we also have a SoundCloud account for anybody who wants to download the audio for the podcast if they want to listen to it on the go. But yes, let's get cracking on Sepang 1 preseason testing. I want to start off with Rob. I want to first hear about any technical highlights, which team brought what to test, or bike, part, whatever. Rob, maybe you can just kind of make mention of a handful of those you think are highlights as far as technical aspects of the testing.
Yeah, let's do the quick stuff first. So mostly the factories, HRC brought 7 different bikes for Danny and Marquez. Wait, Marquez or Marquez? I'm not even sure.
Marky Mark.
Marquez.
Mark.
Marquez.
I think it's Marquez.
Marquez? I'm too
Yeah.
American. I don't know Spanish. It's terrible.
I think it's Marquez.
Marquez. Whatever.
Marquez.
I think Latin Dane got suspended anyway, so he probably won't listen to this for a while.
He listens to the SoundCloud, but go on.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so I think it was 3 for Marky Mark and 4 for Danny. And unlike Yamaha, they kind of spent the first 2 days just kind of figuring out which chassis they were going to do. So they rode all the bikes on the first day, and then the second day they kind of started, picking which one they were for sure going to go with. And then by the third day, obviously they both posted amazing times, right? Like Marquez had the phenomenal new lap record around Sepang, and Danny had that blistering race simulation. So they had chosen their bikes. Yamaha, on the other hand, right, were testing minor upgrades the entire time. They didn't bring crazy different chassis. I know that Rossi tested a new swing arm, and Jorge and Rossi were working on electronics the whole time. So they were really focused on small improvements, whereas HRC was definitely going for big stuff. The other factory, right, Ducati, brought us another GP14, so the 14.3. Everyone was kind of up in arms because compared to the GP 14.2 and the previous one, everyone was like, oh my God, the forks aren't sticking out of the triple clamps anymore. Supposedly that Ducati had changed the geometry significantly on the GP 14.3 so that they could, have the forks in a more neutral position, get more adjustment out of it. I think one thing that people didn't notice was that the GP 14.3 wasn't using fork extenders and the GP 14.2 was, and those add like about an inch of fork tube sticking up. So I don't think the changes were as dramatic as everyone thought they were. But Ducati definitely brought some slight chassis changes, all kind of working towards their new GP15. Supposedly the factory guys were working with chassis that was similar to the 15, whereas all of the satellite and the open guys were working on, or just the satellite guys were working on electronic changes, so that all those electronic changes could be applied directly to all of the other bikes. So like Petrucci was the main one working on electronic stuff, and Pirro a little bit as well.
What I want to know is how come the Hondas don't get cool ass like designations like all the Ducatis do. Ducati brings one new frame, damn thing has a whole new name, and the press is freaking out. Honda brings like 7 bikes. I want like the RC211 13V/X. You know what I mean? Like where's the names? You know what I mean? Like what's going on here? How come Ducati brings one frame and they freak out when Rossi, oh my God, he's making them change the frame? Honda brings like 7 bikes like it's no big deal. Well, never mind, they also had like all these open bikes and shit.
Well, Ducati's made like 7 frames over the past 4 years, right?
Right.
So I mean, when you're building them that slowly, it's kind of easy to count. But HRC, right. HRC brings 1 to a test, and we don't hear anything about the differences, right? All we know is that Marquez and Danny just had to pick one. Like, I'm assuming that they didn't pick the same one.
I wonder what happens to those ones. I wonder what happens to the rejects. Like, someone has that. Like, someone has that C bike that they got rid of a Sepang 2015 one. That's somewhere, and I want it.
Well, they gave it to Cal.
Yeah.
Dennis, what were you saying?
Well, I was going to say when you brought up Danny and Mark having chosen their bikes, on the third day you mentioned how they went faster than they did on all 3 days of testing. So which bike did each one choose, or which frame are they?
We don't know because they don't have names, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it going to be the one they're going to be running, the very new one they brought out, or,
Well, so I know for a fact that on the first day they were comparing to either the 2014 bike or the bike they had at Valencia. Probably both. Like, I would suspect that at least of Danny's 4 bikes, he had the 2014 bike, the Valencia bike, and then 2 more bikes. Marquez, he has 1 less, so maybe not. But I kind of suspect that given all the complaints that they had about how the 2015 bike was more difficult to ride, that Danny and Marquez probably picked a different chassis than what they had at Valencia, because that's been the main complaint from everyone, is that the 2015 bike is difficult to ride.
Yeah, Cal said the same thing. It's just way harder to ride than you actually expected. The abruptness of it, and it's just way more effort to get that thing around the track fast.
Yeah, and they're spinning the tire really bad on corner exit, which is kind of weird because Honda's always been really good on drive out of the corner. Like, it's interesting and weird to hear them that they produced a chassis that's making it harder to exit. Like, it might be the motor, right? Because I guess the engine is getting more powerful and more aggressive. So it might be for Cal especially, the satellite electronics may not be set up yet to handle the new motor. But the factory bikes, like, even still, like, that's the exact opposite of what Yamaha does, right? Like, Yamaha is trying to make their engine calm and easy to ride the entire time, but we hear that HRC is just building this monster of a motor, and they don't even care. They're just like, oh, whatever. This engine is massive, and we'll make it.
It's like a tale of two different. It's like a tale of two different approaches. You know, the Yamaha seems to be evolution, just incremental changes here and there, make it soft, make it easy to ride, and the Honda brings, 17 bikes that are like breathing fire out of the back. I don't know how much of that is Marquez's just real hardcore, brutal riding style, and Rossi's, idea of he wants his bike to be as neutral to ride as possible. So maybe it's just kind of their lead rider development, but Honda definitely took a different route that I expected them to take, which is, almost like the Ducati style. Let's just build a ridiculous motor and then hope we can tame it.
Yeah, I mean, everyone says that HRC is a motor company. They make gnarly engines and then they worry about making it turn later. And obviously it's worked out. Like, I'm sure Marky Mark is kind of masking that a little bit, given that Danny didn't exactly have the greatest year last year. But it's crazy that it's polar opposites. I've never heard Yamaha go, oh yeah, we need to make our bike more aggressive. Like, that doesn't happen. And yet that's what we're getting from Repsol, from HRC.
Well, I want to go back to Crutchlow later, but before we do, let me ask you about Yamaha, because you mentioned that obviously HRC brought a number of whole bikes to test, whereas Yamaha was still working out like little small things. Do you guys know how far off the fastest Yamaha was on the final day of testing to the fastest Honda?
Yeah, Rossi was or Rosie or Rojas, or however I want to incorrectly say it, was a 159.4, and Marquez was 158.8. So not the biggest difference ever, but noticeable.
Yeah, 0.53.
I mean, I know it's the first test of the season, but I mean, should people be worried as far as that half a second gap?
Well, one thing is Yamaha did not bring their double seamless gearbox, which is debuting at Sepang too. Which you heard some musings that they didn't bring it because less journal and press pressure and presence at the second test. But there will be. I mean, you talk about Rossi's going to get a bike which has seamless downshifting. Just playing into his strengths. So I'm not really that worried. Even Moto Matters had some musing that the Yamaha might actually be better than the Honda.
Yeah, I mean, Rossi always wants better corner entry, right? Like, he brakes late. He wants that bike to be stable so he can brake deeper. And yeah, once they get that seamless in there, it's going to help him a lot. I don't think the half second's that big of a deal. There was a lot of discrepancy in when people posted their times and what they were running. We know on the third day that like I said before, Rossi was testing a new swing arm. They were going over electronic changes the whole time. So I think Yamaha didn't really focus as much on the pseudo qualifying of the third day compared to HRC.
All right, well, let's go back to Honda and obviously Crutchlow, who we focused the last episode on. So the difference between the third episode and now, obviously, is that we've seen Crutchlow on the Honda. What are you guys' thoughts?
Hey, man, he lost out to a Suzuki.
What do you mean?
I can't help but laugh.
Aleix Asparagus was faster than him by a tenth of a second, or just a little under a tenth. He was split between two Suzukis, which everyone thought was going to be a shitty bike that was going to be struggling for a while. And Cal's not in the top 10 on theoretically, one of the bikes that most definitely should be in the top 10.
What's even more noticeable to me is he got beat by Brattle on an open bike.
And Brattle,
really?
Brattle was 8th at a 2-minute point 2. Pretty solid, and that forward bike is looking tits. They sort of stole they kind of snuck in some Honda wings on the design. But, Brattle was pretty darn fast, and it was kind of the tale of last year. Meanwhile, Baz is way the fuck down in, 19th or 20th or something. It's kind of like Edwards and Espargaro last year. Like, what the hell? It's just same bike, basically, but...
Yeah, Baz is doing quite a bit better than Edwards, right? He's 1.3 back from Brattle, is what it looks like here on the timesheet. Yeah, or one and a quarter, which, to be honest, for his, second legit test, the first one with awesome weather, I'm pleasantly surprised. He's ahead of Miller.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I think that Open Honda is going to be a pig again. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, I mean, Brattle on the Yamaha, I kind of I had guessed a year ago that the Yamaha would suit him more. Kind of when we were talking about where he was going to go from the Honda, him going to an open Yamaha. I'm not surprised that his style suits the M1 more. But so going back to who brought what parts, the open Yamaha is on a 2014 chassis, and we have no idea what that means. It could be the 2014 chassis that Pole and Bradley rode, or it could be the 2014 chassis that Rossi and Jorge were on. Who knows? But we do know that they were on a 2013 engine, so probably the same engine that they had for all of last season.
Right.
And he is going to get a 2014 engine by Qatar. So even now, we can expect a performance increase. And I think the 2014, all the 2014 factory and satellite bikes had a seamless shift motor, right?
For Yamaha?
Yeah, for the Yamaha.
I'm not sure I don't know if the Monster satellites did. I actually think they might not have. The factory bikes did, but the Monster, Bradley's and Poles, I'm not exactly sure if they had the full seamless or not.
Yeah, I'm not
remembering that they were.
Yeah, I can't be certain either. But I mean, once he gets a 2014 motor, I guess he's going to get a power increase. I think there's a chance that he'll get a seamless upshift, which will be helpful.
Right.
Did either one of you bother to check whether, if, as far as how Brattle is doing right now on the forward Yamaha, how it pairs compared to how Aleix was doing last year?
Dude, I mean, Aleix was, like Rossi was saying, he was a front-runner to win at Qatar. He was just lighting it up. I don't think he's at where Aleix was, but he is kind of where Aleix was in actual races and finishings, hovering in that top 10, the second half of the top 10, and maybe knocking on the door of that top 4, top 5 when the time is right, I mean, Brattle's a solid rider with that kind of crazy Moto2-esque lean angle. I think it's going to suit him better than the Honda did. Certainly kind of a Honda that was, once again, satellite Honda's not always getting the best support, the definitely second or third thought process from Honda.
Yeah, so Aleix did a 59.998 by the end of the 3 days last year. And Brattle did a 20.294. So he's 0.3 back, which, to be honest, that's pretty solid.
That's very promising, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Aleix is damn good over one lap. Conditions were definitely better at this test, so it probably favors Aleix just a little bit, right? Brattle is looking a little better because the temps were amazing. Because no one even got close to 58 last year, right? Marquez got a 59.5. But yeah, I mean, Brattle's not doing too bad. It's crazy. Actually, did he go faster on? Oh yeah, no, that's right. He's 0.2 slower on the open Yamaha than he was on the LCR Honda.
That's still it's pretty close. It's not that big of a gap.
It's nothing. It's ridiculous. I mean, he does have the softer tire now, right? Which definitely helps over one lap. And he put in his best lap kind of in the morning, like on lap 10. So So there's that little bit as well. Obviously, the Open Yamaha probably won't be as fast over race distance because the Open electronics are just not as good. But he may get like the same exact position in the championship on a lesser quality bike. He might.
Right. So, who else surprised you guys as far as riders are concerned, whether for a good reason or bad reason?
Skip.
Well, I don't know about riders specifically. Hayden's pretty down low. Again, I think that Open Honda is just an afterthought, and people complain, so like, oh, we'll up the power or whatever, but, the same thing. It's hard to ride fast. Now it has enough power that they got to, completely redo their electronics to smooth it out. So you see Hayden, down there pretty low, and I think most people, at least most Americans, were expecting that he would get a bump up in that. They gave it a new designation, the RS version. But again, way down low. Meanwhile, Vinales is a rookie who's on a bike that everyone thought would suck, and he's in 12th.
Where was Hayden?
Hayden was 18th. Yep. He actually went the exact same speed that he went last year on the Open Honda. So with those two long straights, and we know for a fact that top speed, speed traps, he's actually on par with most of the satellite bikes now. So even with the boost in top speed, he's only going the same speed, which means he's going slower through the corners.
And also, pleasantly surprised was Andrea Iannone in third. In third, ahead of both factory Yamahas, a decent number ahead of Dovizioso. I don't know, man. If they can give that guy a bike that lasts race distance, I think what Rob said in last 2 or so episodes ago is going to come to fruition, that he's going to be hauling ass. And he's crazy. His nickname is literally crazy. I think that he's going to be up there, and this is a real good test to show he's got the pace.
He's always been good over one lap, though. Not Marquez good, but his qualifying pace with those softer tires last year really wasn't it was noticeably good, right? Didn't he had a front row?
Yeah. Didn't he get a pole?
Did he have a pole?
I thought he did.
Come on, Kevin, you're the Iannone buff.
Look, I don't know. Sure, yeah, he got a pole. I don't know. He got 2 poles. It was sweet. And it was rad. And he was bumping Ferrans with Marquez and shit. And he's fast for sure. That's what I'm saying. If they can give him a bike where the tires can last, I think he's got a chance to make some serious, inroads with that, especially if that new GP15 is what everyone kind of says it is.
Yeah.
Which is a radical move in a direction that's going to give them some speed. Their number one problem last year was, tire degradation. Him and, Andrea, number 1, were consistently up there. It's just a matter of making that thing last the whole race.
Yeah, I think Dovi putting in the effort towards the latter half of the season to always go with that harder tire, the harder open tire, right? Definitely helped them out. And even Iannone, he on the third day, he didn't exactly do a race simulation. He strung together 5 laps and then had 3 or 4 or whatever. But most of those were high 200s or low 201s, maybe a mid 201 towards the latter half of the day as it started to get hot, and then 202s at the end of the day. It's honestly not that far off of what Danny did. Danny did, freaking amazing. He did 20 laps all under 201.5, which is ridiculous. But yeah, so it seems like all that effort that Dovi did at the end of last year is already helping them both out now. Because there's no way that he probably didn't do those Iannone didn't do those fast laps on the soft tire. I'm sure he went back to the medium one.
And I just want to make a correction. Iannone didn't have pole. He actually almost had it until Rossi pipped it from him with 0.10 or something. But
I'm standing by he had 2 poles.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Kev?
Oh, nothing. I'm standing by he had 2 pole positions. You'll never nothing you say is gonna change that.
Yeah, so those guys were good. So now we know what you really want to talk about, Kevin. So Suzuki, right?
Yes,
So
best looking bike on the grid.
best looking bike on the grid because the GP15 is not out yet.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
So yeah, 10th and 12th, right? A guy that makes every bike look pretty damn awesome, kind of a pseudo stoner, and then a fresh rookie in 12th position. What do you think of that?
I think it's like we said. I think they're going to be doing better than we expect. They had one guy ahead of Satellite Honda, and the other guy sandwiched right behind him. Aside from the top 10 next year actually being ridiculous, there's like 20 bikes that could be in the top 10 at any time. But I think they're going to do better. They got rid of the reliability issues. They weren't blowing engines galore like last time. Guys were going out. And I wonder if that 12th of Vinales would actually be higher. We know for a fact they openly say they dialed the bike down for Vinales. They're easing him in. He's got a 3-year contract. It's a long-term project, and they were openly saying that the power was dialed way down. They put him out there with very little traction control to get used to the power. Then it started adding more and more electronics while keeping the power low. Realistically, I think by the time we get to Qatar, he's going to be even faster. I still think he's the guy at some point in the future that's going to take it to Marquez for real. The fact that he's on a bike that's barely developed and he's in 12th, right behind Cal, who everyone thought was like the next great white hope for Ducati for like half a second. I think they're doing real well. No reliability issues coming up. Guys, solid top 10 rider on a guy that we know is a top 10 rider, so we kind of know where they're at compared to where he was last year.
Yeah, it's kind of, they're definitely a little higher than I thought they were going to be, but this definitely bodes well for them fighting with all the satellite bikes, like right off the bat. Like come Qatar, if they smoke both the Tech 3 Yamahas, if you told me that was going to happen 6 months ago, I would have laughed at you. But now, if that happens in Qatar, it won't be that surprising. It's looking pretty damn good.
No, if either of them are in the top 8 or 9, I'm not even surprised. Maybe other people will be, but if I see Aleix get an 8th at Qatar, I'm not surprised, even a little.
Yeah, and that's a solid result too. For your first full season back in GP, it's ridiculous.
Right, and we already know the bike. We already know the bike handles. He said it handles good. It handles. Both of those riders said that it handles better than they expected. It's just making sure that engine's reliable, and then once we get it reliable with some live action testing, we're gonna bump that power up and get it going. I don't know. I think by the end of this year, they're gonna surprise people. I don't think Suzuki came back with the intention of doing what they were doing last time, which was kind of developing the bike. They'll do that in 2 years, but for at least a year or two, they're ready to go.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. Yeah, Brivio said that.
That's actually that's music to my ears because I'm pretty excited for Suzuki as well. But they did say that their target is Ducati. So with the improvements that Ducati's making, with just the first preseason test, do you guys think that they'll be able to close that gap that Ducati is clearly trying to widen?
They're already ahead of the Pramac bikes, which is good. I thought they were going to be about the same level for in the test. So they're already halfway there. I think that the GP15 is going to make it really hard on them because if the handling improves on the Ducati, then Suzuki's got less advantages, right? And without more motors, Suzuki probably doesn't stand a chance.
Yeah, you're gonna even if you can fight in the corners, you're just gonna get the barn door blown off of you once you get on straights because that monster engine Ducati has.
Yeah, and anytime you give a rider an underpowered bike that handles well, they crash in the corners. Unless you tell them it's an open bike and you tell them 10th place is a good result, right? But if you give them a factory bike that's underpowered, they're gonna bin it.
I don't think either of those guys that are riding for Suzuki are interested in 10th place. I think Espargaro finally has a factory bike, and we already know he'll ride the fucking balls off of stuff.
Yeah.
Podiumed on an open bike last year. So And I think Vinales is not here to be like, a top 15 is good. This is the guy who, like I said before, who straight quit on his team because he didn't get the bike he wanted, then got the bike and won the title. He is not here to pussyfoot around. He's a fiery dude that has more hair than Eddie Munster, and he's ready to go.
Yeah, I think they're shooting for beating all of the satellite bikes for sure, and definitely like aiming on those Ducatis. It's going to be tough, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of them finishes ahead of one of the factory Ducatis.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, Iannone does crash a little and have incidents and run off. I think because he's trying so hard.
Yep.
Maybe that was with worn tires and stuff like that. But I don't know. Dovizioso had such a steady, solid year. I think they're gonna have a hard time beating him. Dovizioso just is the 5th best rider on the grid. Who's made steady, consistent progress the 2 years he's been at Ducati.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. That there's no way they're going to beat Dovi, and it's up to Iannone to screw it up for Aleix to get in front of him. But it could happen. But yeah, I'm not.
So are we thinking that Dovizioso, because you guys said that Iannone actually finished ahead of Dovizioso in all 3 days of testing?
No, not all 3, just the 3rd one. Right?
Oh, okay.
Just the 3rd overall times. I don't have the breakdown in front of me of each day.
I do.
So I'm not sure offhand. I mean, I still think Dovizioso is a better rider right now, but it might be some more upside long term with Iannone versus Dovizioso. Just we kind of know what you have with Dovizioso, top 5 rider who's going to get a podium when things are lined up. But is Iannone, a race-winning guy who just goes balls out? Because, I mean, he did beat Marquez on more than one occasion straight up Moto2. And when he was in Moto2, when he was on, he was unbeatable. He was on fire. It's just a matter of that, next week he'll get, 12th.
I think with Iannone and the factory team, like, he's going to put it together more frequently than he did last year, right? Like, that's what the factory support's all about, is making sure that the rider can do exactly what they need to do come race time. So it's going to help. He's going to be more consistent this year, like not even including the new bike, just with the factory support. He'll be more consistent. So that could lend him getting closer to Dovi. But yeah, I don't think that I'd have a hard time saying that Iannone is going to beat Dovi frequently.
Yeah, and not frequently. He might have more fantastic results when it comes, but over the course of the season, Dovizioso will have higher finish or better finishing positions. But Iannone just being on fire one day and getting like a solid 2nd place wouldn't surprise me at all. It's just that he'll crash or get 13th 2 races later.
Yeah, they're both. Iannone is definitely going to help Ducati lose out on those open concessions throughout the year. So. I think it's almost guaranteed that they're going to lose some fuel this year, which is fine because they're not using it all anyway.
Right.
But yeah, one thing about Suzuki though, I'm totally not sold on their reliability fixes just yet. So Brivio in some of the interviews said that it wasn't like one nagging part that was the problem, like it was a bunch of stuff interacting together. Whatever that means, right? Like everyone kind of thought that it might be an oil pressure problem because they never saw these issues on the dyno. I don't necessarily believe that because they didn't have these reliability issues when testing with the Pugnae last year. And they covered, I think they hit like 6 or 7 tracks. So, and there's no way they rebuilt the engine every single time. That's just wasteful. And then you can't see those reliability issues. So,
right, knowing you have engine limits.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a little skeptical. Like, I'm sure that they're going back to the factory with the engines they used at Sepang 1, and they're going to check over everything that they improved and make sure that it actually fixed things or, helped out. But if they blow one like around like race 3, 4, or 5, I won't be surprised. Especially once they start pushing the envelope, trying to get more power. Like, Suzuki's never been a good engine builder in GP. We know they've been down on power constantly. So when they start pushing the envelope, trying to get more power out of it, I think they're going to pop one this year. I think someone will DNF because of an engine issue.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me either. I'm just saying that, they didn't blow 4 bikes like they did before. They had the riders were not having these issues where they almost couldn't test because of it. They at least fixed reliability issues in the sense that riders could go out and test at race pace and not blow engines off the bat. I mean, who knows what happens in the heat of a battle, or if it's a hot race and you're behind someone, you can't get enough air in the radiator and the thing overheats. Probably, like you said, might pop 1 or 2 engines, but it's not like it was last year at Valencia, and then where they were just blowing shit left and right.
Yeah, I mean, how did they do that at Valencia, right? It's not like they brought like old used up engines to Valencia. Like that'd be ridiculous and silly, right? So they had to have brought a new engine, and Duprunier didn't pop engines when testing. At least we didn't hear about it. But I mean, we kind of like there was enough coverage on those tests. Like they put out a video practically every test, which was awesome, by the way, to actually get a update on a factory coming in, like from their PR department. But I don't understand it. Like it's almost like they tried to make an upgrade for the Valencia race that was untested and it failed, which it's kind of silly. You don't you like. Crew chiefs and stuff always say, right? Don't the race is for racing. Don't try and fix things.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You don't try things in the race. The race is for doing what you know.
Yeah, unless you're Burgess, right?
Exactly.
But that's all I got for Suzuki. It's going to be interesting to see them the whole year. I think they'll have some flashes of brilliance, and I think that chassis is definitely going to help out at certain tracks. They're going to get spanked in other places, but without the power. But, that happens to everyone.
Well, moving away from Suzuki, I'm kind of curious about a former Suzuki rider. He was in Gresini well, he's still going to be in Gresini, but he's going to be in Aprilia now. How did Alvaro Bautista do?
At first, not so bad. The first day or two, he was way higher than I thought he would be. Once the guys decided to do their end of the test, qualifying laps to kind of make a statement, he's way the hell down there. And like, what is he at? He's, 21st, which is pretty bad. But he was hovering around 10th or 11th for a while when everyone was just kind of testing and opening stuff. Problem is, as Rob will point out when he goes technical, Aprilia bought brand new frames for the bike, and both riders rejected that.
Yeah, well, they had 3 riders, right? Because on the first day they had Laverty running, who is now an Aprilia test rider. So it's cool.
Right, and DeAngelis was there, although he didn't test them, but.
Yeah, well, yeah, or DeAngelis was on the ART from last year, which is no surprise, and then and then all 3 of the Aprilia riders.
Wait, when you said Laverty, you mean Michael Laverty?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But I'm sure you didn't mean Eugene, who's obviously in the Prati Honda.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. There are 2 of them again.
Okay.
Right.
But yeah, so they brought the RSGP, which is their designation for their pseudo, almost not yet factory prototype bike, right? Because it's still based on the RSV4. And Laverty kind of liked it, but he went unbelievably slow. I think what he did a 2:06.1. Compare that on the first day compared to a 2 flat for Marquez. That's
right.
Pathetic. And he was actually Marco Melandri did a 2:04.5 on the first day, so that shows you how slow Laverty's time is. But that was on a stiffer 2015 Aprilia chassis for Laverty, and then the other 2 guys, Bautista and Marco Melandri, were pretty much on the 2014 chassis, and they hated the 2015 chassis. Absolutely hated it, rejected it straight out. And it's funny because of all the chassis that we've seen from Aprilia recently, they made the ART and then they cut half of the frame spar out above or right in front of the swing arm, kind of on that diagonal spar that all the aluminum frame bikes have. And people liked it more because it was not as stiff. And then they ran that for the ART, and then someone decided to weld that piece back in, and we will find you a photo of that. They literally just welded the piece back in and ran it, and some people thought it was an improvement. And now they have a new frame that's not welded. It's just a straight spar and then a beefier front engine mount, and everyone hates it. So I don't know what they're doing, right? Like,
not a good start. Not a good look, Aprilia.
They lost Gigi, and now they can't make a chassis for shit. Like,
which was their thing, that was kind of their calling card, because they were chassis made in the lower classes, and then you talk, and now they don't. It's like they're taking steps backwards from already basically the slowest bike on the grid.
Yeah, so even if they fix the chassis, there is little hope that they're not going to be way back there, right? They're behind practically everyone. Like, maybe.
Well, except for two of those Honda production bikes.
Yeah, that's a good.
Who are they?
Abraham and Laverty. I don't know, man. Maybe it's time for Abraham to move on.
He needs to go. Yeah. He's.
Yeah, I know. There's a dude on Barf who knows him and tried to steal his girlfriend or something, but it's just I don't know. The guy's way back, 23rd. He's been racing for 4 or 5 years now. All right, man, it's time to maybe bump down to Moto 2 for a while.
Yeah,
but again,
wait a minute. Are all the production Honda riders for this test, are they kind of clumped together, or are there anybody that's kind of?
No, Jack Miller was 20th, and then you have Abraham and Laverty in 23, 24. And Hayden was in 18th, but they're right there. Miller and
but there's 8/10 between Carroll and Nikki. That's not a small gap. Nikki and Jack were 4/10 apart, just under 4/10, which is acceptable. But to go all the way back to Carroll and Eugene, that's pushing it.
Right, and again, Miller having having openly said that they're kind of weaning Miller onto the power of these bikes. So again, I just like Vinales, I don't even know if Miller's time is really reflective of how fast he is, because they've said that they're weaning him onto the power with the electronics. So he may still have had a dialed down bike to let him continue to learn, corner entry on the Bridgestone. Like Ben Spies said, it's just unbelievable how late you can brake. Coming from a Moto 3 bike, he's got a lot to learn, and he might be faster than his time is as well.
Yeah, it's kind of setting up Jack Miller for not good tests, because I actually didn't hear that they slowed the bike down. I know that they're not running traction control, but it's crazy to hear that the Honda is hard to ride without traction control, and then they give Miller no traction control. As far as as little traction control as you can have with a fly-by-wire bike that has 250 horsepower. Right. Even if you put the thing on setting 0, it still has some traction control, so you don't high side to the moon. But why are they handicapping him so much? You're giving him a bike that is difficult to ride. What's he going to learn?
Yeah, I kind of think that. I think Jack Miller the jump is going to end up being worth it, but I almost think they should have just gave him the bike cows on. Why give him a shitty bike? Petrucci, and we'll go into that, he said after riding open bikes and CRTs, now that he's on a bike with power, he basically has to change his riding style once again, because the Ducati's not about high corner speed. It's about getting in, parking it, and then jamming that throttle. Jack Miller is going to spend all year riding this bike in one way, and then, from what most people assume, get a prototype bike the following year and have to relearn again, and on new tires.
Well, the open bike probably won't be as far away from the satellite bike as something like the ART and the Ducati, right? Because they've essentially given them a full prototype motor. They don't have the seamless transmission, and they have considerably lower spec electronics. So I don't think the gap will be that large. He may not.
Although, I don't know. I think the lower spec electronics makes a big difference. If we go back a little bit to Simoncelli, one of the quotes he had, the Italian media, that he was pretty adamant was the difference between the factory electronics and the satellite electronics was so massive that was the real reason he was initially crashing like crazy. When he wasn't much of a crasher his rookie year, it was like riding a completely different bike, and he had to relearn how to ride. I remember those quotes specifically because he talked about getting the factory electronics for his satellite bike and it being a completely different bike.
Well,
I think the difference in electronics is pretty big.
we do know that next year, though, everyone's going to be on the same electronics, so that kind
Good call.
of goes.
True.
But the latest news is that the unified software is actually going to be closer to the factory spec that we have now, or that everyone is using, than the current open spec. So all the open bikes are going to be thrown this complicated software, and it's going to be difficult for them. So I mean, maybe Jack Miller, it's like we talked about it last episode, right? It's better than what Redding put himself through.
Yeah, Redding is like in the worst. His timing is just terrible.
Yeah, so he's 2.5 tenths. He's a quarter of a second faster than Nicky, which is not good. That's kind of
No.
I mean, they're on comparable power now, but Redding had to have gotten some quality electronics baseline data from HRC, whereas we know that Nicky only has baseline data from last year, which is not applicable to the new bike at all. So why are they so close together? They're 17th and 18th. Why? I mean, and Redding did post his best time of the test at the end of the day, which is definitely the worst time to do it, right? Highest asphalt temperature. Whereas Nicky did it on lap 13, which is really early when everyone else did it. So maybe Scott could have gone, a quarter of a second faster, but that still only would have bumped him up to 13th at best.
Right, splitting. He's slower than two test riders. I mean, Hiroshi's over there, and Michele Pirro is there faster than him too. So great, he's faster than a couple of test riders that aren't even going to be there anyway.
Yeah.
Riding old Hondas. I mean, or old bikes. Pirro was just riding because Hernandez got hurt, so he was just filling in riding for Pramac.
Yeah, and Hiroshi was riding because he needed to test Michelin's the next day, which we'll cover in a little bit.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I only have one final question for the two of you as far as testing. I mean, I know it's only been the first test of the preseason, but who is looking like your dark horse?
I'm going first. Petrucci. It's gonna be sweet. He's gonna have a couple races. He's gonna throw people a fat, a huge surprise off people. I don't think he's a dark horse to fucking win races, but in terms of whoa, what's that guy doing there? I think Petrucci is going to be up higher than people expect. I think he falls right in line with the whole sort of Ducati going all Italian, bringing it back in, kind of insulating themselves, test rider to technician to, engineer to all riders, kind of being this all Italian affair. I think he's going to surprise people more than we think. I think he, on a Pramac bike, is going to get some solid top 10 finishes when people don't expect.
Wait, so Ducati is half Italian, right? Of their 6 riders, they've got, and if you include Pirro, that's even more. That's ridiculous.
I mean, and then they have, they got a Frenchie in Demiglio, and then the guy that Dorna made them keep, Hernandez.
Yeah, the Colombian. Wait,
I think
more.
A couple of years ago, I said they want to be all Italian all the time, and they're slowly making their way towards that. I mean, they got their test rider, their 2 main riders, and one of their satellite riders are all Italian.
I think it's awesome that Petrucci is Vale's friend, and Vale actually towed him around. So we saw interviews about that. That never happens. Right, I guess Vale used to tow Simoncelli around, but other than that, people blatantly avoid each other because they don't want to give away anything. It's so awesome. If you're gonna be friends with someone on the grid, be Vale's friend because he will help you out.
Yeah, be Italian because Vale and Iannone did do that last year once or twice. They would go out in the final qualifying group, the Q2, and you would see them. They rode together a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I think that whole friendship kind of insulating thing where they're all kind of crew, ride together outside and practice is going to benefit him as well. I wouldn't be surprised at all if you see him sneaking a toe in on some guys and them being fine with it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so my dark horse is Hector Barbera on the open bike.
Two Ducatis.
Another Ducati. So he showed a little bit of brilliance at the end of last year of like some solid like you gave him a bike that actually had horsepower and he did some stuff, which was surprising. I mean, he finished this test in 15th, which I think is pretty good for that bike because he's on. I mean, what? He's probably on a GP 14.0, maybe a.
Point two, I believe he's on.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's right. He got the newer bike than Petrucci, but he's on the open electronics.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, as long as and we know that Ducati is actually helping Avintia with the electronics, so it's not like
Yeah, they
HRC.
sent them technicians specifically.
Exactly. It's not like HRC where they just say, hey, you own the bike, do whatever the hell you want. So with a factory technician on the open electronics and with Ducati actively playing both sides, right? Like writing the unified software and helping out with the open stuff. I think he's gonna do well. It's gonna be hard for him to win the Open Championship because of Brattle's initial brilliance right here. But
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if he beats Brattle for a third of the races.
I just think that the bike is more ready for Brattle at the beginning of the season, and the progressive nature of the points will put Brattle probably. I'd imagine he's going to jump out pretty far in that Open Championship, the first 4 or 5 races.
Yeah, definitely. How much do we know if Yamaha's giving forward any electronic support? I haven't really heard anything about that.
Their whole thing is weird. First, Yamaha, they were just going to build a chassis, then they weren't. Then Yamaha said, oh, fuck it, you can just have a bike. And then this year, they were supposed to be on their own chassis the whole time because the plan was to lease an engine. And then, never mind, we'll just give you a whole new bike again. It's really weird. I can't figure out what's going on. Then at one point, Yamaha said they kind of wanted Forward to be a team to bring guys up. Like kind of a second satellite-esque team.
Yeah,
but then they got a guy.
Well, I mean, they are. I guess they're not really a second satellite team because they don't have any riders on their team that will ever move to the actual satellite team. But,
right.
But Yamaha's definitely Yamaha is awesome. They're just as good as Ducati as providing support to the lower teams. It's pretty cool to see that in the grid. Compare that to HRC and oh man.
Yeah, again, that's the Repsol influence with, they don't pay that much money to be the most marquee sponsor that everyone just associates with the sport itself to be beaten by, teams with no vowels in their name.
Now, speaking of Yamaha, Rob, Edwards was there testing the Michelins on a Yamaha, wasn't he?
Yeah, so that was exciting. Hiroshi actually went faster on the Michelins than he did on the Bridgestones, and Edwards strung together some 201s, which for a guy that hasn't been riding a bike and we know did really terrible the last time he was on a bike, to put it mid-pack times on brand new tires, that's solid. In the last episode, I was wondering if any of the current chassis would work with the Michelin tires because the stiffness is going to be way different. They're going to 17-inch wheels instead of 16.5s, meaning the sidewalls are going to be a different shape. To have the bikes go anywhere close to a competitive time is awesome, and to have Edwards do it.
Do you know which M1s were being ridden on those Michelins?
I'm going to go with full factory M1 because Edwards was on a double seamless transmission. So
really?
that's what Yamaha was doing is I'm not entirely sure if they tested before the 3 days, but obviously they tested after as well. They were testing the double seamless transmission with their test riders so that they can give it to Rossi and Jorge for Sepang 2. So that
I
was
like that.
Final.
I like that. That's sneaky. They were using a tire test to test other parts. That's Ducati-esque and cheating the rules.
I mean, they're not contracted riders. It's totally legal. They can do whatever the hell they want with non-contracted riders.
That's true. Kevin, do you have any thoughts on Michelin testing tires?
Nothing really, other than like Rob said, that their times were way closer than people expected. They were a second or so off. I mean, fuck, I didn't hear a lot of response on how smooth or easy to ride they were, if they had predictable drop-offs, or if they did what Dorna said they wanted, which was, a predictable and smooth drop-off in performance over race distance. But, I mean, the fact that just makes me wonder how stagnant Bridgestone's actually been now they've been the tire supplier for so long. Is like, oh, they're just kind of hanging out. If on their first try they can basically be almost there anyway.
I mean, Bridgestone has been.
Is Michelin going to be back for the next two testings before the season starts?
They're pretty much testing like on the Monday after every race event for the entire year, practically. And I think.
But I mean, for the preseason test, the Sepang 2 and then are they testing?
Shit!
I posted a calendar in the off-season thread that has it all in there, and it was an image.
Okay. Let me go ahead and wrap that up. I think we've covered the Sepang 1 testing enough. It's going to be in 2.5 weeks. It's actually going to be February 23rd. But before that weekend is actually going to be round 1 of World Superbikes for 2015. It's going to be in Australia. Biggest news for me is Johnny Rea finally going to be on a proper motorcycle. He's going to be on the KRT with Tom Sykes, obviously a championship-proven machine. I mean, I know Sykes won 1 championship on it, but I want to remind people that he actually lost out 2 more times in the championship by just like a hair's breadth on that bike. So I'm really excited to see Ray on that. But also the biggest
dude lost on straight half a point.
Yeah, right. That was very heartbreaking actually. But the other big news for 2015 in World Superbikes is the regulation changes as far as regulations on the bike. I don't know if Rob can offer a little bit of insight as to what has changed going forward for this season in World Superbikes.
Yeah, everyone heard you say regulation changes, and they were like, "Oh, Rob's going to talk again." No, real quick. So main things is that the engine is going to be less modified. So they can't like change cranks or polish things. They only get 1 gearbox ratio. The camshafts are free, so they can do whatever they want, but they can't they can't weld the cylinder head anymore. They can still port it. Any rods have to be. They can replace it with. They can replace the rod, make it a little stronger, but it can't weigh any less. So all of those engine changes are actually forcing the factories to looking for horsepower again. There was an article somewhere, I think it was on GP1, that listed the top speed differences from the last test, and some of the factories, well, especially Honda, was down 8 kilometers an hour or something. Kawasaki was spot on. Ducati was actually 1 up, which is more of the technical regulations. But the other thing is that the electronics for World Superbike are now there's a price cap. So I think it's 8,000 euros, and the electronics have to be shared between any competitors. So if KRT is running their full factory electronics, they have to make those electronics available to their satellite, or not the satellite teams, but any private team that's running a
private team.
Yeah, exactly. So they have to release, they can still work on the software, and they have to release that software, I think, 3 times throughout the year. So the good thing is that all those changes should close the gap between the factory bikes and the private bikes, which will be nice. So that's the reason why they're able to get rid of the Evo, because the bikes have gotten a little cheaper, which is moving towards the Evo stuff. And then all the Evo bikes are now going to be faster because the factories have to share the software information. So it could be good, right? It could bring the field closer together, and that's always what we want to see, right? We want to see a Moto3 style battle of 12 bikes in a line fighting for that win, and it should be pretty awesome. The one other main thing is really funny, because this always happens in Superbike, is Ducati has somehow managed to wrangle a performance advantage out of all of these rule changes. They yeah, right. The weighting between twins and inline fours, how they weight the performances, they've removed the weight penalty I shouldn't have said weight so many times.
Yeah, the ballast.
Yeah, exactly. So the Ducatis are not significantly heavier anymore.
And I just want to say I agree with that. By the way, I like the idea of let's race what we want to sell and have this be a vehicle in which to show the things we want to sell and the bikes we make. So we gotta bend the rules a little to get a certain style of bike closer to the front. That's I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and I mean Ducati exactly hasn't lit the world on fire with the current bike. So they definitely needed a performance boost. And everyone in World Superbike wants to see Ducati do well. It's just it's like Ferrari in Formula One. You want Ducati at the front. So it's definitely helped out. The bikes aren't as heavy as they were last year. I think they still have a slight weight penalty compared to the inline fours, or the four cylinders, I should say, but it's not nearly as bad. But yeah, so moving forward, Dorna is only going to adjust the performance with the throttle body size, and that's like something ridiculous. Like the Ducati will have to win or take the top two steps of the box 4 rounds in a row, and then they'll reduce the throttle body size by 1 millimeter or something. So as long as there's some parity in the results, it's not gonna happen. Even when Checo won the championship and was cleaning up, they still didn't neuter the bikes because his teammate wasn't doing so hot.
Right, that's kind of the cheat on the rule set is there's only one team running that style of bike.
Yeah,
so they have to both be destroying to have it change.
Yeah, and I mean it's if the private teams on Ducatis were destroying the other factory bikes, then everyone would go hey, you need to do something about this. But we know that's not going to happen. So I agree. I'm totally fine.
Not with Johnny Ray on a Cowie.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, I'm totally fine with them removing the ballast differences. It'll make the season more interesting. I think we'll have another winner this year. But yeah, that's about it.
Same here, and I'm really excited to finally watch some road racing start up the season. I know that after the Australian round, it's going to be another month and a half to the next till round 2, and obviously MotoGP starting. But it's going to be finally good to see some road racing action happening. So I can't wait for round 1 of World Superbikes in Australia.
Yeah, I hope the feed for World Superbike is a little better quality this year too. Maybe we'll get to see some practice footage and stuff. It'll be good. I mean, it's always nice to on Monday morning or whatever to flip on the race and even Sunday to watch qualifying. But more content is always better.
No, yeah, for sure. So, I'd like to see a discount between the two. Buy one get one half off or whatever, and keep that going. I mean, I don't know why they don't just do the same basic package they have in MotoGP in terms of coverage of practice and stuff, but first year of it, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, and we know that World
Superbike. Yeah, for people not in the know, Dorna obviously took over organizing World Superbike, so it's actually Dorna that finally provided the World Superbike video pass they could do for MotoGP, but it isn't up to par with the MotoGP video pass. But like Kevin said, first year they did it, so hopefully they're going to ramp up in the next coming seasons as far as what they offer for the video pass in World Superbikes.
I bet you GP is significantly more popular on the online presence than World Superbike. So I'm not surprised that we don't get as much content, and I'm totally thankful for what we have. Because I don't have the channel that World Superbike is on. I'm not gonna pay an extra $20 a month on my cable bill.
Yeah.
I don't even have cable, so.
Actually, neither do I, actually.
I need to ditch it.
Yeah, you should. I mean, anyway, just to wrap up this episode and to preview a little bit of the next episode, which is going to be episode 5. Obviously, that's going to come after round 1 of World Superbikes and Sepang 2 preseason testing for MotoGP. So, as far as our listeners, that's what you can expect to hear in the next podcast. My 2 hosts, you guys have anything else to add before we sign off?
I'm waiting on the GP15. Let's see it.
Me too. Plus, I'm the whitest motherfucker there is.
Yeah, everyone.
The whitest.
I'm legitimately excited for the GP15. This is what us fans of Ducati have basically been waiting for since the the announcement that GG came was, let's get the bike. Can he do it? Can they actually, somehow magically, take a completely different route and catch up to Honda and Yamaha? And I don't know. Rob seems to think they're going to fucking win a race next year or this year. So let's see what happens.
Yeah,
definitely the G15 is kind of a fruition of everything they did in 2014. We're talking about development, we're talking about race results. Everything they did in 2014 all leads up to what the GP15 is going to be.
Oh, they did a lot too with Puro and all the testing. But yeah, they're debuting it, or they're going to show us on Monday, I think, actually. So.
Oh God, I hope it looks good. Please don't be boring and lame like the Yamaha.
I mean, Gigi said that it was that from a distance you would be able to recognize it. So I think it's going to be radical. It's going to be in a good way. It's going to be awesome.
Sweet.
Well, that's going to be what we're going to be covering that in the next episode. So until then, thank you for listening, and we will speak to you next time.
See ya.
Have a good one.